Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another mod stream. I am here as your resident modder, and I'm going to be getting into some more work on the desert map. As per usual, I would like to have a poll up or something, but still nothing really coming to me. Obviously, recently we renamed the cybernetics core to the Cenotaph. That does not appear to have been pulled on the website, so I'll just rectify that situation very quickly, and then we can take stock of some other things, in theory. Let's go ahead and try that one on for size. There we go. So, Cenotaph makes a lot more sense thematically. Obviously, it's meant for, it's like a monument or a grave site in theory, except the body is elsewhere. And so, DF gave me a compelling argument for this one. He said that since it's a grave for a warrior or a person whose body has been moved elsewhere, you can kind of think of the Strider as the new grave. So very, very thematic in my opinion. So definitely a big fan of that one. Happy it passed in the poll, so to speak. We're going to jump over to the campaign planning. So we have this at the ready for when we need to reference it later. And we're going to jump into the map making side of things. Shouldn't be too difficult to get some more progress done on this. I actually have not touched this since yesterday or 2 days ago, or whenever I did my last mod stream. I think it would have been 2 days ago now. So we will be looking to complete the top bar, the top strip, if you will. And then ideally we can continue detailing and getting some stuff done in that respect. And I guess after that, it'll just be down to some AI work, maybe some script writing or something for the dialogue and all that, and figuring out how we want to shape this. So I feel like the centerpiece is a little bit light in terms of gameplay. And of course, there's a bunch of emergency vehicles in the background. Classic. But I feel like the centerpiece is a bit lighter in gameplay compared to what I initially wanted for it. I wonder if maybe I can reshape this a little bit to be better in that respect. But I'm not sure. It's a tough one. I guess I can see what it would look like if I take this. And I move it here. I guess it would have to be here. So I think that this is a little bit cleaner, but I'm not really convinced in terms of, like... What's up, Wooker? It's a bit cleaner in terms of it being, like, symmetrical or whatever, but it doesn't flow with the rest of the map very well, in my opinion. But maybe that's not something that's like impossible. I don't know. Like I have to think about what the ramifications of that are, because I think we could maybe throw like an expansion or something over here that's pretty wacky. Or we could just like, yeah, I don't know. What would we want to do with this? It does feel like we're working backwards a little bit. But I do like that aspect of it a lot better in general, and maybe we just try to... There we go. I wouldn't imagine anything worthwhile being thrown over here is the problem. Like, there's not enough room for anything like that. But I guess there's room for you to, like, set up artillery and stuff if you wanted to. Or, you know, take and control this area. I don't know. These are places where you could throw ion cannons and stuff, so... What's up, Terran Dominion? So the other thing that I can do, right, is I can relocate this stuff over here. So we can have, like, the... I guess the guys would be off on this side. This is a bit of a recovery stream, I should mention. I'm in rehab after suffering through Bioshock. Pretty deplorable experience overall. But obviously the problem with this is that there's no turret room if I do it that way. Didn't I have fun? No, James, no. Can't say that I did. Wasn't really much playing to be had, to be honest. It's just some sicko's movie. The revolver was one of the best weapons in the game, surprisingly. The biggest issue is that you can only hold 2 weapons, so even though you can hold, like, infinite ammo for any... Well, not infinite ammo. You can have ammo for every gun, but you can only have 2 guns at a time. which is like a really wacky system, to be honest. Like, just doesn't feel right at all. Yeah. The sniper rifle was more accurate when hip firing, which is pretty funny. At least in the few cases that I used it. But I didn't upgrade it, so I didn't make too much use of it. The biggest issue was that like you had to rely on your GF to fucking throw shit at you. Otherwise, you would have just died at all times, to be honest. Is the wiki actually like has it been verified to be accurate, or are we just trusting Tismers in that respect? I'm just glad it's over, man. Happy to have finished that piece of shit. And the insanely overpriced DLC gives me a very epic excuse to not touch the game ever again. Not, I wouldn't have paid for it anyway. I thought I just had it, but I guess that didn't come with the Humble Bundle or whatever. Wherever I got that game from, I bought it for pennies. I'm just surprised still that there are so many critically acclaimed games that actually punish you for playing them. At least on the hard difficulty. I probably should just play on medium more often. I don't look at it like some sort of gamer privilege or whatever. Like, the reason I play on hard is usually just to see how the difficulty scaling works in these games. And the fact that enemies just passively got more health the lower or the deeper you got into the game was pretty fucking damning. Like, I can't believe that's real. I haven't not actually played any of the Red Dead Redemption games. I guess those would be another title to experience, another franchise to suffer through at some point. I think McSkillet was a very strange case where, to be honest, there was probably a lot going wrong with that guy. So I'm not 100% sure you can pinpoint it all on CS skins, but I'm sure they didn't help. I'll say that much. Just because, like, nobody's really equipped with the faculties to necessarily deal with fame at, like, the age that he was dealing with fame at, so... It's just weird that he got so much attention for literally making skins videos, like case unboxing videos or whatever. And the cops are here. Let's see if I can find a matching one. I think it's this. I don't know why they do it, but it's probably that adrenaline addiction shit, I'd guess. Because Chucks, correct me if I'm wrong, but you've just bought this stuff from the skins marketplace itself, spending like a couple cents or whatever on junk skins. Well, what the market deems as junk skins. Most people, or maybe not most, a large portion of the people who have skins get them from unboxing them from like $1.49 crates. Or no, the crates themselves you just get as drops, but you buy keys for $1.49 a piece. And those keys unlock a couple of different things. They unlock the crate, which then randomly, in theory, gives you some skin. And usually it's not enough to break even. Yeah. It's a pretty sickening practice, but obviously it makes a ton of money, so... Morals often fly out the window in the face of such things. Yeah, those things have been around for a real long time, though. I think they kind of... I don't know if they predate gacha, but they certainly are... I think they were introduced back in like 2015 or something. So... They've been around for at least 5 years. I don't know, maybe longer. I don't remember when skins were added to the game. I think it was like 2015, 2016. All right, we've reworked a lot of this section. There's obviously a concern with the pathable terrain and how much space you actually have to rotate armies through here, but I think it's okay. Like, nothing's standing out as absolutely horrendous besides the fucking Blizzard randomizer for these tiles. That's pretty bad. Yeah, well, you see somebody who's got, like, expensive skins or whatever, and you're like, wow, I would totally want that. Yeah. It's a status symbol or whatever. If it didn't hijack our literal fucking brains, I would be a little bit more, or a little bit less, like, incendiary with my takes on those. So I think one thing about the base entrances in this map is like the intended idea is that the pathways to the like these two bridges to the left and the right are significantly wider. Well, maybe not significantly, but it's a 3 wide instead of, or like 4 wide instead of 3 wide or whatever. It's one size up from these bridges in the center. So you can get more units through these connectives, these bridges here, than you can by going through the middle of the map. So that's the main justification, I guess. So as a result, you've got, you know, a couple of options. You can choose to prioritize maintaining mid control, which gives you access to obviously a ton of different avenues going forward. And that might be the way forward for you, for your team or whatever. I'm not really sure I'll be able to make that look satisfactory, to be honest. Probably just keep that open. But ultimately, your like the main things that you have to worry about as the player or players, if you're playing this co-op, you've got this left entrance and the central entrance. And the central entrance is obviously pretty like important for both players because you can come out this bridge and go up here into this area. Oh, you know what? One thing that I could do is, since I've opened up this path over here, I could actually remove this ramp. The reason why I put that ramp there is because that was before I extended this path over here. So you could actually just flank around in theory. I might do that. Because my initial logic was the Terran player here should really prioritize holding down mid with the Zerg ally and holding down this top left area, while the Zerg obviously prioritizes mid and the right area, because this is where a guy shows up pretty early on. So I could do that. I was also thinking that yeah, there's a couple of different avenues for this actually. Let's go back here a little bit. Because I like the idea of the Terran ally being insulated from even mid, unless the Zerg area falls over here. So the Terran ally is incentivized to use this like height advantage, cliff advantage stuff to lock this area down, and support the Zerg player in that sense. And the Zerg player can obviously use this to their advantage with some Hydras or some Bactylisks or whatever, and have their like natural right here pretty early. They can also choose to take this one and have the Terran player pick up this double gas early. Like, that's an option. There's this over here, which might actually turn into a double gas. I'm not 100% sure what I want to do with that just yet. So I think that there's a lot of potential for this area as far as like interesting game design goes, or interesting map design goes, because this funnels people down mid if they choose to go towards this team in the first place. Or obviously like this area, which is much more the domain of the Terran, you've got to bear that in mind as well. The Terran's base is actually a little bit less defensible from an attack from this side, because they can flank all the way around to what there would be most likely their natural, and otherwise they can I guess there's no south entrance. That is something that I deliberately did, but I might roll that back. And then obviously that would mean holding this left flank would be even more important. But yeah, if you have any specific concern over the base layouts, Alexander, or the entrances or whatever, I'm only shadowboxing what you may have been intending by your comment, but those are my observations so far. I think, you know, it encourages that cooperation, and the fact that there's AI arriving in the middle of the map, and that there's like the free-for-all going on when the protests show up. I think that's going to be quite cool, quite a different experience than what people are used to out of Brood War. So Oh wait, this is wrong one. Here we go. Oh, I didn't even see your first comment. You need a lot of space for infantry to move. You also need to account for the fact that some rush tactics are easier to pull off now. What are my thoughts on that? Rush tactics are exceptionally powerful on this map because of the nature of AIs arriving in the middle of the map and because of the fact that it's a smaller map. I think for balanced engagements, you would just have longer distances between players or between teams in like the melee map where it is intended to be balanced. That kind of map would be designed around, in theory, it would be designed around. I mean, it's another balancing factor you can have. So you can incentivize rushes just based on the fact that the rush distances or the distances themselves, the travel distances are smaller. That's a lever you can pull as a map developer. I think for designing a map, like you're talking about infantry to move out, that's going to be less of an issue when we get the selection extender because that's true for like Zerg in general, obviously, as well as I think even mech to the in the mid to late game or whatever. So there's no wave spawning in the center. I don't know what you mean by that. What's up, Xenox? I think melee maps would be balanced around that idea where you do have those variable distances, and depending on the distances, as well as the spacing between like mains and naturals, that would allow you to decide how powerful the rush is going to be. How, for example, maybe there's a safer expansion, but it takes you longer to get there, so it would be delayed if you took that as your natural. That would be like one thing. I never said in the center of the map. The middle, as in the middle of the map's runtime. So in medias res, in the middle of the battle. They arrive pretty close to their start location. Anybody who's got a start location but no base, so in this case, the 4 players that you've seen start locations for, are the ones that are arriving just in the middle of the battle. And I've talked about that a couple of times before. The thought process is they come with an escort and some money in the bank, and they set up. And if you know where they're going, like one of the issues is obviously this is inherently solvable because it's not like they spawn in like a random assortment of 1 or 2 different like start locations or something. They have a preset start location every time. In theory, I would want them to actually pick based on what's gone on since the beginning of the map or whatever. So like the Protoss would decide, oh, maybe we shouldn't go for this side because like a Terran has already expanded over here and tried to smother us. Or there's been a battle that's opened up like the left side of the map, so let's go there. Like that would be what I would like to take it. It's not going to be possible to do that with this engine, I don't think. But it's something to like. This is mostly like a proof of concept of this idea in the first place. Well, they can interact. We can read deaths and set deaths and all that stuff, so it's possible to use them as like switches or to interact with that. But I'm not sure how that would help in this case. Yeah, I made Parabola. It's available in the. You play tested it a while back with Balethal against AI before the AI remake started happening, or overhaul started happening. Let me see if I can pull it up. It's the Twilight map. Other than that, I have a 2-player map coming up, but I still haven't finished it. This is Parabola. This is where I experimented with having a couple of additional double gas bases. There's 4 in this map. I'm going to throw more of those around, though, because I keep thinking, like, we have so many new units in Hydra, and most of them do require a significant amount of, what do you call it? Like, it's not that they require a disproportionate amount of gas, but it's that the production structures now require more gas for, like, the level 2 production structures and stuff for Terran and Protoss. In general, you just want more gas. Like, you float a ton of minerals. Everybody does. And it's something that I'm not 100% sure is, like, fixable without... Like, maybe it's just that we all play really poorly. I don't know yet, but I'm thinking that there's a possibility for this to be somewhat resolved on a map design level. And if it ends up being one of those things where it feels like it's too powerful, I can obviously just cut, like, some of the gas from one geyser. So you've got one with 5k gas and the other with 2.5 or something. And I could obviously also reduce the mineral count. So, like, oh, there's less minerals in that one, so you're picking your poison depending on what is better for your playstyle or something like that. I could, but the AI always considers its start location to be a defensible thing. Like, they always want to defend their start location. So we can't decouple that, seemingly. Like, it's probably really low-level code. Even, like, it would require a ton of fucking reverse engineering to fix that, and I'm not even sure where we would start for something like that. So unless there's some panacea to that particular issue, there's no way that I can have the dynamic start location. Like, what I would like to be able to do is actually change the home res area or whatever, if possible. But that was one of the issues that we had dealing with there was an old installation map I made a while back. It wasn't installation, it was Badlands, but the entire map was basically installation. The player was Protoss, and they started in a Badlands area, and then as they walked out, they were surrounded by an installation, which is just like a zany fucking map design. And one of the main things about that map was that one of the AIs spawned in the middle of the map pretty early on, like in the first minute or something. And one of the issues I regularly had was it would have one of 3 potential starting locations, but it would always try to get its start location defended and stuff. I couldn't figure out a way to fix that. So that seems like it's one of those issues that is intrinsic to the game itself. Not 100% sure how I would go about trying to address that. So... Well, we're not doing Fraudcrafts until we fix the lag anyway, because obviously it's just unplayable. I'll see if Iquare did anything to the... Yeah, he didn't even touch this hook that I asked him about. I think he got sidetracked trying to fix Knave's fuck up in A's, but no dice on that either by the looks of things. Yeah, so Iquare needs to take a look at the hook that I wrote yesterday. I think I wrote this yesterday morning. And then we'll be able to explore the change some more. I guess I can try... let's see. I fixed the bug with it, so I could re-enable it and see if there's any luck there. Having resources on the rim encourages more turtle and passive play. Does that apply to how my AI behaves? Not really. My AI just tries to take as many expansions as possible most of the time, and they're macro gods because obviously they don't have any multitasking issues. So that naturally means that if they just get a lot of money, then it's almost impossible to kill them. They're very dumb at micro because there's no micro functions in like very barely any micro functions in Brood War AI. At least the native AI. So we've yet to implement any of our own systems for like kiting or anything like that. Once we get them to be better at handling their units instead of just like suiciding them or defending one by one or anything like that, then it obviously makes it so that we they don't have to cheat it nearly as much. But the main thing about my AI is that people are used to like it's still pretty far from what it should be in terms of a contender for like the average grizzled map like a average veteran of the game. They still do a lot of really dumb things, like with their unit control and all that stuff. But benefit that they have is that for everybody who doesn't expect AI to ever be good in an RTS, they usually end up dying to this AI at least a few times because it's competent enough that you can't disrespect it until you've like well and truly 100% won. There have been times where people have assumed that they've defeated the AI in like a free for all, and then they turn to like another player or another AI, and then suddenly like 5 minutes later, there's like 100 supply worth of units knocking on their door from the AI they thought was dead. So they actually have really good like cockroaching ability where they can survive. As long as they have workers and stuff, they're very resilient in that respect. Kind of hard to like completely bang out unless you've destroyed all their stuff, which I'm personally quite proud of. I think that's like one of the best things about them is how reliable they are in most cases. Unless there's some build orders that are a little bit fucked right now that I need to fix. So you were talking about like resources towards the middle and stuff. I do have some double gas bases, like one double gas base towards the middle. The thing about the bases that are like off in the corners and stuff is that yeah, they are safer by definition because there's less angles of attack. This whole top strip hasn't actually been finished yet, but eventually there will be like maybe 2 more bases up here, and I'll flesh out that area a little bit more. The main idea, though, is that because this is a team free for all, where it's a 2v3v2 once all players are there, assuming nobody's died when the last player arrives. Because that's the nature of the beast, I expect the chaos to pretty easily catch people off guard once things get into full swing. I will need a lot of like precise testing or whatever, where I just let the AI play out as all players and just observe what's happening. But that's the main idea: is that you've got like yeah, they'll take a bunch of bases, yeah, they'll build a bunch of production structures, and there's plenty of build space to do so, and they're gonna do their best to just overwhelm you with sheer numbers, and hopefully that ends up happening. That's the main victory condition for the AI in general. They will sometimes surprise people with their first attack being quite sizable, but that is a little bit more like inconsistent in terms of how frequently it happens. Their main pièce de résistance, their specialty, their forte, is 100% the mid game power spike when they have 3 or 4 bases and they just start throwing down like insane numbers of tier 2, tier 3 production structures and pumping out like end game units. If they get to late game with like 6+ bases, it's almost impossible to defeat them. Like you basically have to have an AI on your team that has the same situation or better in order to have a chance. No, we're not using the C++ bots that those people have written. We're basically building our AI on top of like I've written this AI in a version of the original AI language that was shipped with the original game. So this is made out of a lot of new stuff, but it's built off of the foundation, the very buggy and stupid foundation that Blizzard left us for from the campaigns. So at this point, another rewrite of the AI would kind of be pointless, and we would sooner just make our own engine for our own game, which is the obvious end game at this point, is just to slap something like that together and hope for the best. I think I'll just remove this for now. I don't really see a need for it. Guess we'll drop this. I'll just work this in here to the... I don't want to take up too much build space, obviously, but... This will be the natural for this Protoss, I think. What's up, Balethal? Yeah, I mean, obviously stuff like this where you can just set a tank here and like blow up the workers or whatever and provoke the AI, or like over here. It's a natural opportunity cost, and that's one of the reasons why these bases have so many resources, and maybe they should have even more resources as a result of that, right? Because it is something that you have to worry about. It's a challenge to lock them down. You know, that's something that I'll explore for sure. Like maybe these bases end up having like 3 geysers each or something absurd, just because of the fact that they are within a stone's throw of being antagonized from a range. In Hydra, you also have higher range from the cliff as well. So like a unit that's on this little place right here gets +2 range when targeting units on the low ground. So it's obviously even more impactful under those conditions. Whoa. Let's recede this a little bit, more build space to try and make up a little bit for what has been taken away. Feels like Dune. Another game I haven't played. Just eating breakfast, nice. I had eggs and bacon for breakfast today. It was pretty epic. Did I not make a... Oh, I probably didn't save it. That would make sense. It's pretty sure I had put together like a brush selection or whatever from the... for the ramps. The fuck? The classic. I finally completed the suffering of BioShock Infinite earlier today. That sure was an experience. This is another exceptionally easy base to defend in theory, but I think I can compensate this by leaving very little turret room and maneuverability, so air units would be able to harass this. I'm not even sure if that's reasonable, to be honest, but I'll consider that. I wonder why Blizzard was so lazy with their tiles. The plot twist that I was the bad guy the whole time. It's pretty boring. I'm sure there's a ton of like obvious clues that everybody thinks were really subtle and really epic and interesting that I missed or whatever, but as far as I'm concerned, it was just junk. Like the whole experience was pretty dreadful. Like I wasn't ever engaged in the story because obviously it was just misery to actually play the quote unquote game. Now let's hope that yeah, that's what I figured. Fuck. See if I can fix that later. Yeah, that was my feeling as well. There we go. We found the combination. Yeah, I guess the reason why people just randomly become informed of additional things that otherwise they didn't seem to be informed of at all is because they randomly got replaced by different versions of the people that they otherwise were. Like the Elizabeth at the end that like one of the three that the one that looks like it's the one that you were following around the whole time is probably not even the real the quote unquote real Elizabeth, the same one that you had before or whatever. If I had to guess. But it's like pointless. It's pointless to even think about, in my opinion. All right, let's get this last base in.
The Protoss.
All right, it's pretty ugly base, to be honest. There you go. Slightly less ugly. So I guess that sets us up for the detailing phase where I go through and I pretty this map up a little bit. Though we could also do some slightly more technical stuff, I guess. I do want to ship this map with the latest, some of the latest tech tree additions that were planned for the Terrans, where they have the scrapyard and all that stuff. Because I think that that could be pretty thematic to have like a map where it's built around the faction that uses the inhumane units in particular. But yeah, another thing that I really noticed pretty heavily in that game was the feeling that the enemies were there just because somebody said, "Hey, we need to have a fight here," and not because like the enemies should be there. Like the Vox Populi have a very convenient reason to just start like attacking you, and whatever. I guess that's fine, but they were really reaching in a lot of those cases. I feel like. Like, it never felt organic why we were fighting the people that we were fighting. IMO. Like, when they started throwing zombies at me, a part of me was like, oh, these enemies actually have a reason to attack me. Which is hilarious to think a literal mindless enemy has more presence than more story framing than like what are supposed to be thinking entities. Like, that's pretty sad, man. Like, when I write a story for a video game, a key element of it is that you have to actually have, you don't have to justify as in work your way around to make sure that you like work backwards to justify a fight. You have to create a setting where believable fights occur, and you can use those believable fights that could feasibly happen in the story, in the setting rather, to further the plot in an organic fashion. I've talked about this a ton of times when I was doing the rewrite for the setting, right? And the main idea that I had there is, okay, here's the game plan. We're going to write a setting, write factions into the setting, have natural conflict that where everybody can understand, oh, there's such an easy reason for like fights to break out. Yeah, this is actually a really tenuous place. Kind of dangerous even. Like, oh, I can see why these factions would be at odds with one another. Like that's a key element of the storytelling, right? And you have to have that almost like the story tell itself. But none of that was ever present in BioShock. For a game that literally lived and died by how good its storytelling was, because obviously there was no fucking gameplay in there, it was just embarrassing. It's not at all what I expected I'd be getting out of that, to be completely honest. Like, I thought for sure there's no way a game this... I don't know why I'm always bamboozled, but I didn't think for a second there'd be a game that's as critically acclaimed as that game was. And it would just suck that badly. But you know what I will say about BioShock Infinite is that at least I was able to complete it without it bricking my computer. I might even be able to go back to Deus Ex Human Rev now that I've figured out a potential fix to that issue. But I don't know if it's even the same thing, to be honest. And I don't have a strong will to necessarily go back to that title either, so. We might just leave that one for never. They did have vending machines, yeah. What am I playing next? Good question. I guess I should actually clear out the... here, I'll close this. Should clear out the... That's pretty funny. All right, I can clear out BioShock Infinite. What would be the game? I guess we can hop over to the planned titles section and we can see if there's that's a poll. I can make a poll real quick. Hold on. BioShock Infinite was more about how the writers want to pretend they know about quantum mechanics. One of the most embarrassing aspects of the BioShock to me was the fact that we had well, we're getting arrested for talking bad about BioShock Infinite. Sorry, guys. The most embarrassing part was actually on a train when Elizabeth is like, say, it's not a train, it's like a barge that like ferries you from one place to another on the railway. And I guess I can delete this now. Where are we at? She says that the Latuses, the brother and sister, invented quantum particles, and that's how they were able to be. That's how they were able to make the floating fortress stuff that they had, and that's so like, why even say quantum particles? What the fuck is wrong with you? Oh, I guess I could do a run of Doom. I didn't even have that in my list. So obviously Dead Space 2 is actually done. So did I even link that in here? This document is unfortunately quite out of date, I think. Like I linked Age of Empires, I linked Dead Space 2, Fear 2, BioShock Infinite. Okay. So we'll say Fear 3, Dead Space 3. I guess we'll just say for Deus Ex here we'll just say Mankind Divided, I think is the game. Oh yeah, at some point I have to run the stupid God of War game. That is such a bad game, man. That is not even a game, really. We've done this already. Somebody requested this game, but I don't remember, or these two games, but I don't remember why. I don't know if I'll actually play those. So I guess I'll add here a Doom reboot franchise. I haven't played Doom Eternal yet. I have played the original one. I tend to avoid running mods for any game, but if there's something where like a mod is just the de facto way to play, then maybe I would. What I try to do with my playthroughs is play through it as the developers intended to present, rather the product that the developers intended to present. I make some exceptions to this, like with BioShock Infinite, where I disabled post processing wherever possible because it was just aids to look at, right? Yeah, Hellblade, I think in 2018 or whenever it came out, was like everybody was raving over its story, so I put it in here. This was years ago that I threw it in there. I can't play the Darkness 1 because it's not on PC, but the second one is. That's pretty infuriating. Yeah, I guess I could just do, I could play Doom. I guess we'll see if people want me to play Doom 2016 or something else. What else would it even be? I guess it would be Dead Space 3. I can take a look at what I actually have on Steam. Link BioShock. Ah, don't do that. I guess I can uninstall this as well. How do I do that? Can't do it without actually seeing the game. I have to go back and then right click. See you later. I gotta emulate Sonic 06? Not again. The fastest copium and apologism in history. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I guess I should probably download that stuff and throw it into some mega archive. Actually, let me see how much I already have downloaded. I think I usually delete videos that I'm done watching, but I have Seg 8 of Sonic 06, which is the last one, so I have to download all of the others. Predictable. All right, let's do that. What the fuck? Windows. Bad. All right, what else was I doing? Ay, ay, ay. What a disaster. All right. So I can move this to finished. I do have the third Fear game. I guess I could play that. That would be pretty miserable. I could play at Mad Max. Oh, yeah, I have to play Portal 2 at some point. I have some really bad games in this list. I think that's a bit of a special case because it's just been around for so long. It's kind of the same thing as playing, like, do I play the BattleNet edition of Warcraft 2 or the original one? Like, you can kind of make an argument for either one, right? I think RE4 is the one that, like, literally gives you fucking CTE by making you button mash and you stand still when you're shooting and stuff. So, hold on, we'll... With Bioshock Infinite in the can, what should I play next? After Infinite's review, of course. We have that. We have Portal 2. And Spec Ops The Line. I forget what else was here. I guess I could do Fear 3 or something. F3er. Is he okay? Or was that it? Was that the assassination attempt? Oh, he's 100% fine. All right, never mind. I already played Doom, so unless you're talking about like way back in hindsight, like 2 years ago or something. Putin was behind it. Yeah. I guess these are a fine trio to get people to vote on. There you go. You can. I'll link this in the Discord server. You can check that out in the polls section. What is this? Oh, I already have that on my wish list anyway. It's elder abuse to rip on Biden. Guy should not be running the country, that's for sure. All right. Well, I think we've done our due diligence there. We can go back to The classic. Yeah, that Xanox guy in Twitch chat made me think a little bit more about like the resource allocation of some of this stuff, and I have to agree with him, even though he's probably not here anymore. What if we just drop second geyser here, and then a third geyser here? Probably shouldn't put it there. Oh, I don't know. I don't even know where it would go, to be honest. There you go. There's your 3 geysers. Maybe a bit of hindsight here would be putting the geysers along the back ridge and the minerals along the rocky ground or something, but I don't know. Maybe it'll work out fine. I can't believe he actually said that and nobody said anything about it, really. Just like conservative commentators. Those are the only people who even like pretended it existed at all. I just can't believe it. At some point I lost my extra ramp tile there. All right, I think I'll leave this for a sec and use the bathroom, get my water in order and all that stuff. I will return very shortly, and we'll take stock of the early votes in the poll. Remember, your vote counts. It's not the presidential election. And yeah, we'll just be back to get some more decoration done on this map and do some thinking about any other layout changes and all that stuff. So, shall see. BRB. Yo, yo, yo. We back, homies. I kind of want to take another look at the hook that I was writing and see if I can figure out why the wrapper is crashing. It's probably something very easy to fix. I just don't have the immediate knowledge to know what might be the problem. So let's take a look at some of the other injections. Maybe we can find an example of a hook that... Oh, maybe that's it. I'll try that anyway. It's kind of a blind attempt, but let's see what we can do here. And yeah, I'm gonna have to build with it enabled. We'll see if that's it, because it might just be that I'm replacing the wrong argument here. Nope, that wasn't it. I'm not sure why some of these have EAX +1 or whatever. I'm never seeing like an EBP +4. I'm only seeing 8 or higher. And then this returns 4. So I think that was an issue with the stuff that I had. I think it was supposed to be return 08, but let's see here. Let's go back to this. I could try return 8, but I think that's another one of those shots in the dark that doesn't even make any sense. Because it's supposed to be the number of stack args times 4 in hex. Maybe it's actually number of args times 4, no matter whether or not they're stack. Doesn't look like it. I guess I'll just like make sure that this is even the correct position for the funk. 401 D60. Yeah, that's correct. Guess I'll double check whether or not the number of knops is right. I could try with 1 knop instead because the other 3 knops are 0. They're just null, so maybe it doesn't matter that they don't, maybe they don't need to be replaced, but I'm pretty sure they still do. This is another one of those shots in the dark, so to speak. Seems to make no difference. We'll go back to return 4 instead of 8. Just in case that made some difference somehow. Let's take another look here. So maybe I'm missing this. I guess that would make sense. All right, we'll just see what we got there. Oh, hey, look, it works. In theory. Now we get to test whether or not it actually works. Well, I guess it must work. Unit can see cloak to target. um... Something's definitely wrong with my hook. Because... Okay, this is where we'll break out the IDA. I don't see why this is even necessary, but... So something is wrong with this. What we're trying to do about cloak is basically make it so that... Wait, what happened? Somehow he died. I don't know how, though. Well, anyway. We're making permanent cloak, reveal the attacker, or reveal the unit anytime it attacks or casts an ability. for 2 seconds. During which point, obviously, it can be attacked by anything. And we've made Eidolons, formerly ghosts, and wraiths permanently cloaked instead of having a toggle cloak. Arbiter cloaking, now the Arbiter is called the Didact now. Didact cloaking treats units as if they were permanently cloaked. Obviously, the Kabbalist, formerly Dark Templar, and the Barghest are also permanently cloaked. Witnesses as well, but that's not really the same thing, obviously. It's not an attacker. All right, so I'll disable this, and then V can mess around with it in his own branch. Yeah, the problem there is that obviously it's inconsistent in terms of how close you need to be, whereas this is 100% consistent across the board. Assuming the unit attacks at all, you can see it for 2 seconds after, like the timer would refresh after every attack, basically. All right, so that fix will hopefully give Veek enough leeway to actually get some work done in the space. Yeah, I'm just obviously obsessed with things being consistent, right? So it's got to be consistent or it's not worth it. IMO. The main reason why we wanted to change up some of how the how stealth worked was primarily because it's a very binary interaction where you pretty much just have, what would you call it? Like, you don't have a whole lot going on there. You just have the, like, do you have a detector nearby? If not, I guess you're just gonna have to suffer that unit for a while. Or like, do you have a Terran ally who's willing to, give you some assistance with a scanner sweep or something? It's not. It's like a gear check in an RPG or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's not actually particularly worthwhile. IMO. So. I think this the proposed rework that we've got in the works here is better for a number of reasons, and one of those reasons is that you don't have as much variance for seemingly no gain. Yeah, but I don't want to be limited to that, right? I actually want some cloaked units to have that be as like a behavior. And I also want more interactions where you get cloaked allies or whatever, like the Didact. I think that that lends pretty well to interesting compositions, personally. Basically, I don't want cloaking to be so ridiculously powerful and binary in the way that it is powerful, so as to make the unit that has it useless in other interactions or in most interactions. And that's kind of how I felt about the Wraith before it was changed to abide by this style. I wasn't talking about your system anymore, Chucks. I was talking about, broadly speaking, like the vanilla system versus the Hydra one. Yeah, I completely disregarded the range-based cloak thing entirely because that's not what I was referring to at all. I think in Brood Wars, with Brood Wars really wacky pathfinding, it's incredibly dangerous to have anything that's like based on movement range or whatever, or like proximity to other units. Just as a general rule, because your units will take very stupid paths and sometimes like accidentally get themselves scouted, and then you're just kind of fucked, right? It's like, oh, okay, I guess they revealed themselves. Great. So would prefer that didn't happen. I think more passive behaviors that interact with things at a more fundamental level are kind of interesting. It's just that you have to have them be somewhat grounded, or else they just become pretty gimmicky and hard to understand and internalize as a player. I think, at least that would be my fear. Is that. Yeah, I guess that'll be a goal pretty soon, huh? He's talking about what I was just mentioning, that with Brood Wars pathfinding, you would just accidentally walk into, like, your units would accidentally walk into enemies and reveal themselves, and then suddenly you'd be revealed with feeling like it wasn't really your command that did that. It was just like, oh fuck, this invisible system that's controlling my unit's pathfinding just revealed my unit for. Very, very, very nice. Very great. Exactly what I wanted. So at that point, you're kind of like shadowboxing a system that could be really nice, could be novel in that respect, but like maybe that's even how I would handle certain racial, not really cloaking, but like maybe like for example, some sort of Zerg corollary that has movement while burrowed. Maybe you get to see the units when you're close to them or something, because like they create those little mounds. So even when they're moving or still, they wouldn't be invisible perpetually. So you could like see them if you were close enough. I think that maybe even works for lurkers, Lakizilisks now in Hydra. That might even be a better like if you're close enough to the Lakizalisk within like whatever the sight range count would be, maybe it's like you have to be within 3 range or 4 range or something, or maybe even closer. You're within their ability to strike back, and maybe you have to be a ground unit as well. I don't know. That kind of feels a little gimmicky, but I think as long as you're within that certain range drop off, maybe that makes more sense for burrowed units. And then you can see that, like, I think that makes a little bit more sense because burrowed units would, in theory, if they were going to move at all, they'd probably move a little slower and would be easier to control as a result than something like a very fast cloaked unit otherwise. I don't know that it gives limited resistance against damage. To the degree that it resists spells, it's very inconsistent. Like, I guess Irradiate doesn't affect burrowed units. Or so, no, if the unit that is irradiated is burrowed, it doesn't deal AoE or something. That feels like it's just a bug, to be honest. But I do think that there's stuff that could be done to make that a bit more interesting, I guess. No, Splash doesn't work differently. It's the same. You're thinking of burrowed units underneath Dark Swarm don't take damage. I think they still take Splash. But I might be wrong about that. And that's why Lachezilisks, aka lurkers in vanilla, are so strong with defilers. Like, they just absolutely butcher shit everything. I don't think there's any issues with detection in burrowed units, but there are some weird mechanics with Dark Swarm, obviously, because the game is just held together by fucking duct tape. Yeah, considering I'm going for like thousands of units per player in the late game, I don't know that it would work out. I do think the view for Hydra should be zoomed out a little bit more, but I'm not sure. Not sure how reasonable it actually is. Well, you would be able to make use of it, but it would have to be like it's just obviously much more much less general, I guess, is a way to think about it. Ha! Imagine having upgrades.
Look at this guy. He's got upgrades in his strategy game.
The fuck? That's not what I wanted. It does feel like you would have way more issues with ground units, like actually having them be able to make use of the ability or whatever. or the mechanic. Oh, I can't block that off. There's a lot of emergency vehicles today. Shit going down somewhere. Well, the odds are that in high-level Hydra, you would actually have mobile armies at all bases, more or less. As like that's what I would suspect anyway. What's up, Shamble Man? Welcome to my crevice placing stream. Just doing some detailing for this desert map. I am still not 100% sure how to resolve that, because the conundrum you face if you enable air pathing to actually block unit movement and stuff is, like, suddenly air armies become a lot less nimble, which is one of the main reasons to go for them. My idea initially was to have elevation levels, but I don't know how successful that would be either. Jesus Christ. I guess they're making them work for their taxpayer dollars. That was a loud one. It's been nonstop since I've started this stream, I feel like. It's like multiple times an hour. There we go, we finally found the one that I wanted. Crevices are important. Yeah, cloak vision would be revealed to, at least in, if I was going to do something like that, your vision would be for the whole alliance, as opposed to like for one thing. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Here we go. Round 3,000. The problem with Magic Boxing is that it's such an unintuitive mechanic. Like, it doesn't make any sense to think of it as like, oh yeah, sure, Magic Boxing. Yeah, if I just select 2 different unit types, one of them that can't move or doesn't move as fast, and like, what? Okay, I try to think of it like this. How would you tutorialize Magic Boxing without making somebody who's never even heard of the concept feel like it was the most ridiculous thing in the world? I don't think it's possible. Like, I'm pretty sure you just lose. Pretty sure it's over. Like, it's just a ridiculous concept. And I'm not saying you have to be able to tutorialize everything or whatever. Like, I think you should try. But I'm open to the idea that maybe it's just something you've got to accept. I just feel like it's just really weird. It's just a very strange interaction. Yeah, if you wanted to get rid of all timeouts or cooldowns, you would have to also do that for weapons. So I think in this case, if it's a consistent interaction where you actually have to be the one to attack in the first place in order to proc it, then the control is in the person who has the unit's hands, unless, of course, there are detectors nearby, which is the other way to counterplay it. Because you, as the unit owner, can choose, fuck it, I'll just, you know, I'll just ignore this guy and we'll be on our merry way, so to speak. If that's what you want to do, you don't have to engage necessarily. Oh, I don't think it would be invisible. I think the cloak would just slowly fade back in, ideally, until it completely envelops the unit. So there would be like a read associated with the mechanic. I think there should be stuff like that for everything. I think there should be stuff like that for weapons as well. There should be like an animation for during weapon cool offs or whatever to make it more obvious when like a weapon is ready to go, so to speak. Yeah, everybody sees swastikas. The only answer is to continue using things that look vaguely like them until people stop commenting about it. Because it's boring. That is the way forward. May never happen, but whatever. The unit's health and energy is hidden behind you actually selecting that unit, so I don't think that the act of selecting each individual enemy unit or whatever is actually quite difficult. And during the time it would take you to see that, I don't think it would be notable. But I think it's also fine to have like almost a status bar. Like in theory, if I imagine like a unit health and mana bar option, you know, health and energy and shields and stuff, you see all those health bars, right? You see all those status bars below them. I think having another one for cloaking, as in progress to cloak, that could be fine. And that could be like a visible bar that would maybe help you. And that would obviously be a toggleable thing, but I don't see a reason why that wouldn't work. Yeah, the Buddhists still use it, I'm pretty sure, but obviously they angry white people sometimes mistake it for the wrong thing. They showed bars for ability progress? Oh, they probably had like some sort of channel time thing on the status bar or something. Yeah, something pretty subtle like that I think would be fine for this situation. I don't know why. Nobody will ever know why. No real point in speculating. I think it was because Dynamo asked him if he was gay or something. I don't actually know. That did amuse me at the time, but all right, let's take a look at this again because something went wrong. Um, so maybe it was supposed to be 4, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I am not 100% sure what's gone wrong then. I guess we could do this, but I don't think that has anything. No, that wouldn't have anything to do with it. What a disaster. I don't really want to extend this cliff any further, but it does feel really odd that we don't have any space there, so I'll do that much. I guess we'll move this over slightly. It gives you a little bit of a defensive nook here, so maybe that's fine. All right, I think that will do it for the mod stream. How long did we go for anyway? Oh, just over 2 hours. So this was a bit of a shorter one, but I wanted to make sure that I got some work done on this map. And hey, we did a little bit of progress on the cloak stuff. We started a conversation about cloaking. And we got that poll up. Oh yeah, I was supposed to check in with the poll results. I guess I'll do that real quick. Give me just 1 sec to try and error correct this fucking junk. All right, let's take a look. Looks like Doom is only barely leading. I'm actually surprised that there's not a more definitive thing in the lead, so to speak. Guess we'll see how that develops as time goes on. Don't forget to vote in that. And I'll be catching you guys tomorrow for some fraudulent strike action. Aside from that, stay tuned for more vids and all that, and I'll catch you guys soon. Bye-bye.